Okay, so this week we're going to be diving into the roguelike pits again, but in first person. Because we're giving a first impressions look at Deadzone Rogue by Prophecy Games. And in order to do that, we need to put on our research pants and fully talk about a lot of the behind the scenes stuff regarding Prophecy, because the context matters on this one in particular. And before we do that, be sure to do the usual liking and subbing if you haven't already, helps me out a ton. Now let's get this show on the road. Deadzone Rogue is being developed by Prophecy Games. They were founded in 2019 as a part of the umbrella of studios that made up Hi-Rez Studios. Hi-Rez themselves have developed a slew of games such as Rogue Company, Paladins, Tribes Ascend, Global Agenda, and most famously, the MOBA Smite, among many others. They also had a nasty habit of releasing games and leaving them to languish, Smite notwithstanding. That one was a huge moneymaker for the studio, and in a genre that's primarily a two-horse town, no less. Anyway, I'm getting off track. The founder of Prophecy Games was one Erez Goran, who was one of the two co-founders of Hi-Rez in the halcyon days of 2005. And when he left in 2020, he spun off Prophecy and took the Tribes IP with them. And from there, they go to work. They first developed and released the extraction shooter Starsiege Deadzone in July of 2023. It barely cracked an all-time peak of 5,000 players according to SteamDB, proceeded to hemorrhage players, and has since been shut down. Following that up, they released Tribes 3 Rivals into Steam's Early Access program on March 12, 2024. The initial reviews were promising, but since then have descended into the user reviews decrying the game as a scam. This combined with the confirmed usage of generative AI for art assets in adherence to Steam store policy is, not a good look, as the kids say. I'm serious, the more I look this studio up, the more buyer beware this gets. And I didn't learn about any of this until I started doing more in-depth research the Tuesday after I'd already played roughly 8.5 hours across 2 sittings. So I was a little shocked about all of this, to say the least. And this puts me in a bit of an awkward position because Deadzone Rogue is really good. Like, genuinely really good. And this isn't just me being roguelike pilled this time, I swear. So let's just talk about the gameplay and systems and why they're so good. Deadzone Rogue is, as I said at the beginning of this video, a roguelite first-person shooter. The basic rundown is that you go in, fight your way through various levels of increasingly stronger enemies, die, spend your resources gained on those runs for permanent upgrades, go back in, etc. You live, die, and repeat, like that one Tom Cruise movie. The hook is what makes it truly interesting. It's set in the same universe as Starsiege Deadzone, where you play as an unnamed security officer armed only with a pistol. You are currently stranded on a colony ship going from Earth to Mars that is populated entirely with killer robots. And you seem to be weirdly incapable of staying dead. The main thrust is to get further and further into the ship and discover what the heck is going on. As far as setups go, it's serviceable. Like I keep saying, it's not Hades, but it isn't trying to be. Not even Hades 2 is trying to be Hades, but that's due to Supergiant doing a lot of really ambitious big swings with that game's narrative. The structure of the runs in Deadzone Rogue goes as such. You have 3 chapters to go through consisting of a main mission and 3 specialty missions to go through to move things forward. The main missions, or at least the first of the 2 available in early access at the moment, are too long. Simple as. They have you fight through 30 mostly handcrafted rooms and completely randomized enemies that grow more powerful the deeper you get. These runs, if you do them solo, by the way this game has 3-player co-op, and especially if you finish a run for the first time, will take upwards of an hour to complete. I don't know about y'all, but that is absolutely absurd. It feels like it was too damn long for what I was doing, which is mostly killing robots. The specialty missions are a lot more reasonable in length because of being a slightly truncated 20 rooms that can be done in around 20 to 25 minutes for a single run of them. These also have the benefit of being missions with specific modifiers, like one mission having only close quarters enemies and shotguns as your only weapon, and the other being all about long-range combat with weapons that are more tailored towards sniping and marksmanship. Both were also much easier than the main mission. The final specialty mission is more of a straight-up condensed run of 20 rooms. It's the hardest of the 3 somehow. From a mission design perspective, this is interesting because it leans into the run-based nature of roguelikes and roguelites to offer different gameplay challenges to the player while also giving them avenues to progress. Because this is also where we unlock new perks for future runs. And this is where we talk about meta progression. The meta progression systems in Deadzone Rogue are the standard tech trees to start, with more advanced stuff coming in as the later chapters are unlocked. So in the footage I have, all I got is the skill tree, and these are the permanent passive bonuses that make you stronger as you get more resources. It's a tried and true system that's been a thing since the original Rogue Legacy, and it works well here. There's also difficulty modifiers for each mission so that you can get better rewards. And here is where we talk about the actual in-run mechanics and structure. Deadzone Rogue is, for all intents and purposes, using a lot of the same assets and mechanics used in Star Siege Deadzone, but repurposed for the use of a roguelite instead of an extraction shooter. And I gotta say, with that context in mind, I really like the way it plays. The guns feel weighty in a good way, the aiming is snappy, the dash is responsive, and the grenades just feel great to throw. The basic acts of moving and shooting just feel good to do, if that makes any sense. The arsenal is split up between primary weapons, secondary weapons, melee weapons, and grenades. The primaries are your standard assault rifles, burst fire rifles, designated marksman rifles, and more as the basic stuff, complemented by sniper rifles, heavy machine guns, and even a goddamn minigun, with the spicier options. Secondaries are the sidearms like semi-automatic pistols, hand cannons, submachine guns, and shotguns. You know, for when you need to put a hole in someone's chest. Melee weapons are split between knives and axes. I'm more of an axe guy personally. And grenades are grenades. You just yeet them. What more do I have to say? These are all found by killing enemies that drop them, in shops, or at the end of the first room in a run in a weapon cache. All of these guns feel great to shoot, but they are also tied into the other elements of the gameplay. These can be augmented with elemental effects, perks, items, and, well, augments. Elements are fire, ice, lightning, and void. They all make it so that your weapons freeze, burn, electrocute, and activate gravity well effects to pull enemies in. Perks give stuff like increased ammo, companion drones, slides that let you deal 5,000% increased damage afterwards, and the like. Items give you small increases to your performance that can be stacked on top of each other for some ludicrous effects. And augments are the game changers. The things you make all of your builds around. Do you want to make aiming down sights better, or do you want to increase your elemental benefits? Maybe you want to increase your weak point damage, or focus on critical hit damage. The world is your goddamn oyster. And there's perks which avoid the small percentage increases that roguelites fall into by just giving you flat 20 to 25% increases to a lot of stuff. You start by finding a weapon in room 1, then an item in room 2, then a perk in room 3, and then an augment in room 4. From there, it breaks off into alternating between items and perks for build crafting, broken up with the occasional fabricator room. Combine all of these with increasing rarities of gear that range from common all the way up to legendary, and you have a system that makes you feel super powerful.
Baby, you got a stew going.
And it weirdly feels like I'm playing a Borderlands game for some reason. I don't know why, but the cadence of enemy gunfights all feel like they remind me of Borderlands as opposed to something like Destiny. I think it's due to the fact that Destiny's combat has a much larger sandbox to mess around with in comparison between weapons, armor, abilities, supers, and subclasses. Deadzone Rogue understandably keeps it simple. It all makes for a gameplay loop that I just can't stop thinking about. It's so well done. The majority of the footage I've gathered and the time I've put into are primarily from Sunday afternoon to Tuesday evening. That's a lot of just me loading it up and playing it. It's genuinely a good shooter roguelite mix. Deadzone Rogue has an interesting science fiction aesthetic that feels well-worn, but leaves room for new ideas. Because there's some cool stuff here, like the residential areas of the ship having a bar or a simulated beach, but at the same time it could stand to be a little weirder. The enemy robots are a good example of this because they can range from traditional mechs to messed up cyborgs, and that includes whatever the hell these things are. They haunt my nightmares. Another interesting thing that might be a consequence of early access, but I'm not sure, is that there's no music, like at all. It's mostly just sound effects and some ambient noise, all of which are very well done. So in the meantime, I just proxied in the Dusk soundtrack and it pairs surprisingly well. You can clearly tell that a lot of the assets are repurposed from Star Siege Deadzone, but it's a smart reuse of those assets because why would you let all of that previous work go to waste? It enables a quick turnaround because in the 2 weeks since it's been out, they've already been patching Deadzone to keep it up to snuff, which honestly makes it all cooler. And after all that, you can kinda see why this puts me in an awkward position because by all rights, I should be side-eyeing the heck out of Deadzone Rogue because of all the previous shenanigans that Prophecy has pulled. But I genuinely think they're trying to make amends here, but I don't know, that's just me. They managed to build up a pretty good base for a roguelite FPS with its systems, meta progressions, and build options. I'm going to be keeping my eyes on this one, specifically to see how it pans out.